All right, what's up, guys? Will here from Flow Candy, and today we're breaking down Poppi. Um, so before I dive in, just a couple quick housekeeping notes. So in this file, you'll see the swipe file, the playbook, and the video here that I'm filming now. And I'm going to go through all of this in the resource. So the swipe file is right here for you. The playbook you can access right here. Um, Also, don't forget to check out our free bonus, which is Poppy's main competitor. We have a full breakdown on Olipop as well, including a funnel breakdown, a funnel audit. I have like a 20 or 30-minute video breaking them down last year. Um, and you can click on that here. It's all free. You don't need to opt in or download or pay for anything. Just click on it, and it'll take you right to Olipop's funnel breakdown as well. So don't forget about that, the free bonus. And lastly, if you want to stay tuned for our next breakdown, feel free to subscribe to our newsletter right here. We normally announce these every week, so you can get notified when we do our next one, or trainings. We do a lot of email marketing training as well. And then lastly, if you are interested in working with my agency, Flow Candy, like you use Klaviyo and you are a brand that's somewhat scaled up and you're having problems with flows or campaigns, design, copy, SMS, deliverability, feel free to book a call with us. You click on this link right here, or someone on my team or myself will be happy to sit down with you and talk about some of the opportunities you have to improve Klaviyo if you're struggling with it, email marketing if you're struggling with it. Um, and if it makes sense to work with us, we're happy to talk about that, but no biggie either. We're happy to help you find another agency, a freelancer, hiring an internal employee. So if you're just stuck and you want some advice, feel free to book a call with us here. All right. With that said, let's jump into this breakdown. So I'll start with I'll sort of go through the playbook here, um, and this is what I find is so interesting about Poppi is, they just sold to Pepsi for about $1.6 billion, and they sent less than 30 emails in 2024. So I'm going to go through their email marketing strategy, but I think as I go through it, I'm going to talk about the business and the brand. The reality is email in D2C in general, like direct to consumer, like their Shopify store, I don't think is really the main driver of sales for them and is really the main driver of revenue for them and their valuation, which actually, in my mind, is sort of signals that Pepsi has a huge opportunity here. And you can see it in their email marketing strategy, and this carries over to their sort of D2C strategy. Um, I don't know like how much sales they're doing, so I don't know like if that valuation is too steep. Um, but let's just say that valuation is fair. I think there's a lot of upside for Pepsi to grow this brand. Because the reality is like they're only doing about 200,000 or 300,000 visitors a month. You know, that's not a lot compared to, for example, other brands that we've looked at, like let's just say Liquid Death, that's valued at around over $1 billion. They're probably double or triple this in traffic. So there's a lot of opportunity to increase the traffic. Um, so I think that really moving through their tech stack here, um, they use a Klaviyo for email marketing and Attentive for SMS marketing. Um, so the pop-up is an Attentive pop-up that captures their email, sends them over to a Klaviyo list. All their campaigns and email flows are deployed through Klaviyo, and all of their SMS messages are deployed through Yotpo. People ask me, how do I know these? Or excuse me, Attentive. People ask me, how do I know this? There's some easy tells. So when you opt in to any brand that's using Attentive, you'll see this URL right here with attn.tv. I don't know why they do that, but that's like a clear tell. And then a lot of times when you go to unsubscribe from a Klaviyo brand, you can tell right away what what the CRM is based on the unsubscribe page. Um, Normally, when you click on it, it'll say like K list, K mail, or something like that. That's the tell for Klaviyo. Um, it's pretty easy. Also, there's tools like Built With that I use a lot that will sort of profile technologies. That's not always as accurate because some people leave the scripts on their store. But this, what I just showed you, like going to the unsubscribe, is clearly the most accurate. But that's another way to sort of figure out the tech stack. Um, some other things they're using, so they're using Shopify as their e-commerce store, like most D2C startups or new sort of consumer brands these days. I think they use Yotpo for reviews, Recharge, but they're not, as you'll see, they're sending a lot of their traffic elsewhere. But with that said, they still have like a pretty uh, effective email marketing strategy. It's not like, you might look at this and you might be like, they only sent 30 emails, like they clearly don't know what they're doing with email marketing. I would argue that it is like, I wouldn't say it's like the most advanced strategy, but there is a strategy there. It's pretty intentional and well thought out. I just think they can ramp it up and take it up to the next level, and I'll talk about that later in this video. With that said, let's jump into their actual their angles that they use. And the most popular email they send, based off my observation, is the what I would call like a retail partner email. And this sort of shows you their whole playbook. The whole brand playbook is drive sales for our retailers, or get more sales in our retailers, and that will drive up the valuation. This is, if I had to guess, like a huge part of their sales. I bet it's hard to estimate. I would not be surprised if 80% of their sales, over 80% of their sales, just came from, um, you know, driving traffic to brick and mortar, or revenue from brick and mortar stores like Whole Foods, Target, Costco. They're in all of those. Or if you want to lump in their Amazon business too into that, or their Walmart business. So this is their main email they send. They'll mix it into, they'll do like promotional emails, like this one right here is a promotional email, but it's like sending them to Amazon. If you go to their store too, you can shop. Like, let's just say I want to buy this new cream soda or this new Doc Pop. It's taking me straight to their Amazon listing. And I think this is a departure from, this is a different playbook than Olipop. So Olipop, probably their closest competitor that they're they're sort of looped in with. I mean, Olipop has a huge retail footprint as well, but you can see they are more D2C. They are doing a lot of this. They're doing subscribe and save on the site. If you purchase here, there's just a lot more bundling, variety packs. This is all running through Shopify. So they are clearly trying to have a D2C business, while Poppi, I think, is mostly trying to drive sales to their retail partners. And I mean, this is like what a lot of the more legacy brands have done. I don't know what the right playbook is. I'm just showing you their playbook. But that's where, obviously it differs in packaging, and I think that the target market's a little bit different, but between Olipop and Poppi. But you can see a clear difference here also in just like their D2C strategy right away, and that Poppi is sending a lot of their traffic to Amazon listings, Walmart listings sometimes, while most of Olipop's stuff is going to a D2C Shopify checkout. Let's keep going through. So this retail partner, you can scroll through the breakdown. Here's another one, an example. Like this is sort of a promotional what I would call a contest email, which they do a lot, but it's sending them to Walmart. So this is probably the best thing they do in their entire email marketing strategy, is layering in the retail partnerships in their emails. The second thing they do a lot, and this is what a lot of brands do, almost every brand these days, is sending some sort of promotional campaign. So this is anything like 50% off, 30% off, buy one, get one free, any sort of deal. These drive a ton of revenue for brands. Brands always struggle with like, what is the right balance of promotional emails? They don't want to like send out a ton of promotional emails and necessarily cheapen the brand, but sometimes they need to send out these promotional campaigns to really drive revenue. So Poppi is sending about 23% of their emails are promotional, and they sent about 7 in 2024. There's a typo of those, and again, some of them are sending to these retail partners. Like they will send promotional emails to an Amazon listing, and they'll do promotional emails around a product launch. So they do this. They're doing this again. You could argue, should they ramp it up more? 7 is not that much, but this is probably their second most popular campaign style. And honestly, like when I review a lot of these brands, normally promotional is 1 or 2. You will see a lot of brands lean into these types of campaigns. The third angle I see them use a lot is product launches. And this is, another high impact on revenue type campaign. It's obvious it's built around launching a product or bringing back a product. For example, in this sort of cranberry fizz, they also do a good job of sort of building the hype. Although I think there's some other brands I've seen it do a better job. But one thing they'll do is they'll tease, like they sent this out in October, this holiday sort of holiday flavor they have, and then they tease it to build awareness, to build hype, and then they sent this out in November when they launched it. And even they're sort of layering in one of these sweepstakes contest emails. So they do an okay job with the product launches, and they're sending these every time they launch new product. Also, they do a lot of collabs, which I'm about to jump into next. But that is the one angle. That is another angle. And again, about 13% of those campaigns that were sent out were product launches, or some sort of product launch adjacent type email. The next thing we have is contest. So I would say this is like a lower impact on sales. I mixed opinion on if these are work. Some brands love them. Some brands I talked to were like, yeah, we shouldn't have done that. It just sort of cheapened the brand, and it drove a bunch of traffic for people that just were wanting to enter the sweepstake and not necessarily come back and buy products. So I haven't done like a deep analysis on that, but I've heard that from a lot of CMOs. Sometimes it's like, yeah, like when I ran the cohort of the people that entered into the contest, it didn't always translate into people buying at full price or becoming subscribers or even just becoming customers in general. So, but I don't have the links here, so enter the giveaway. It could be something they're doing with a retail partner, but they do this a lot. 13% of their emails in 2024 were contest emails, so this is clearly a part of their calendar. They're layering in with product launches and promos too, and so you'll see this a lot. in their current strategy. Another thing they do, and this is what Poppi does really, really well, and I'll talk about this later, but I don't think they do the best job of it from an email marketing perspective, but they do a really good job with collabs, like on social media, for example. And these collabs can have huge impacts on sales. I mean, these are like, think about it as like joint ventures with other brands or celebrities. I mean, this is a playbook that we've seen over and over and over again. Dr. Squatch, whether it's, them doing like Star Wars soaps, or Elf and Liquid Death partnering together. Liquid Death does a lot of other collabs as well. And it's a classic playbook that stretches across industries. So Marvel and Disney, um, Little Nas and Billy Ray Cyrus. Everyone remembers that song, Old Town Road. It's like sort of bringing together like hip hop, R&B, and rap and country. Um, in that sort of, you could argue that the success of that was part of Beyonce's sort of Cowboy Carter album, which was hugely successful, apparently. So, yeah, I mean, it's this type of collab is really good because it allows you to promote your brand. It's sort of like a win-win. You can promote your brand uh, with another company's list. So probably what happened with Poppi and Chipotle is, okay, they do a promotion. I haven't checked this, but Poppi does a promotion where they promote Chipotle to their subscribers to find a Chipotle location. Chipotle does an email with Poppi. So it's like you're getting brand awareness. You're sort of siphoning brand awareness from another brand. It works with the celebrities too. Poppi will do a partnership with Post Malone. Post Malone is famous for doing these with Crocs and Stanley. No, yeah, Crocs, I think, and there was another one. Was it Stanley? I forget, but the Crocs has a very famous case study on doing sort of a collab with Post Malone. And yeah, I mean, it's like basically Post Malone promotes Poppi, and then Poppi is now getting traffic and brand awareness from Post Malone's audience. And I don't know what the deal is. Sometimes with the celebrities, they have like a rev share deal. I'll talk about Alex Earl, a influencer they collaborated with, where they gave equity away apparently, or she became an investor. So there's a couple different ways to do it with the celebrities and the influencers, but it's still, I would categorize it as a collab. And yeah, I mean, I'm shocked they only sent 3 of these in 2024. I think they probably could have ramped that up more. I bet there's more collabs they've done. Also, another thing I saw they did was the surveys, which I was surprised to see. This is normally a more advanced tactic. These have very low impact on revenue. They're basically surveys to get feedback on the product or brand or make improvements, feedback on how they became a customer. The biggest problem I see brands have is no one's actually monitoring the survey, yet alone taking the feedback they get in the survey and sort of surfacing those conversations to whatever other department is sort of relevant, whether it's fulfillment or customer service or product design or product enhancements. I'll log in and a lot of times and see just people totally forgot about the survey. But they sent one in 2024, and you can even layer it in with like a promotion. So in this case, it was like, hey, get 20% off if you fill out the survey. I've seen a lot of brands do this. So you sort of reward people for filling out the survey. So that's another angle they lean into. So let's talk about what's working well for Poppi in their email marketing strategies. I think obviously their most popular emails, what they do really well, and I still think they could even improve it, is emails that drive traffic to their retail distribution, whether that's Amazon or Kroger with Post Malone. They have a Walmart one, so they do a decent job around that. They do an okay strategy around the product launches and collaborations, although I think it could be ramped up more on the collaborations. And I think they have a good retention stack in general, and okay. with like Shopify, Klaviyo, Attentive, Yotpo. Okay, let's move on to what I think they can improve. So I think there could be better strategy around the collabs. Um, I think they're doing way more collabs, whether if it's with like sort of macro level influencers, people who maybe have like 50,000, 100,000 followers, or some of these micro level influencers. I think there could be more personalization. There's very little personalization in the emails. Um, they could use more advanced blocks. A lot of the emails, I think, honestly, some of them just might be pure images, where it's like they just designed the image, they uploaded it into Klaviyo, and it's just a link. There's not like actual blocks with some of these, and because of that, they're missing on other more advanced blocks that I would use, like product blocks or social proof blocks, FAQ blocks. Um, and you see these in like you go, if you were going to look at Olipop's email marketing, you would see this a little bit more. It's like a little bit more elevated in the actual um, blocking and templating of the emails. There's also, they could layer in other emails into their email marketing strategy. So FAQ, social proof. I was kind of surprised they don't do subscribe and save. Subscribe and save is a huge part of their Amazon business, I think. So I'm surprised they're not doing that. Not only on site, but also sending them to Amazon. Trending, what's popular now, I think this could be another big one too. This is a very trendy brand, especially with Gen Z on TikTok. So I think that's an angle. I think they can also consolidate their SMS and email marketing platforms. I don't understand why these brands are on two different platforms. Um, I'm a big proponent of Klaviyo. I think that is the best platform, especially for a scaled mid-market. Now, what you might call enterprise brand, where they've been acquired by Pepsi, that has really cross-channel, omni-channel, huge retail distribution, a lot of data coming in. In my mind, they're losing money by um, having a fractured tech stack here, where literally you can't even like build a segment like, hey, I want to send an email to the people that clicked this SMS, or I want to send an SMS to people that clicked this email. It's just a lot more challenging to do that when you have SMS and email on two different platforms. And I think this is going to be a big trend you're seeing in the next 3 to 4 years. Is a lot of brands will be consolidating as they grow. So I think they can improve that. Um, so you might be asking, okay, well, if e-com and email didn't drive this valuation, like what did? Um, so I'm just going to give you over some of my thoughts. So first off, Poppi originally went on to Shark Tank as at the time I think they were called Mother or something, and it was a totally different packaging. Let me see if I can pull it up. Um, there's a picture of them on Shark Tank. Yeah, this is what it was. It was more capitalizing on this apple cider vinegar trend. Um, so this was the first. This was the first brand. So they obviously rebranded the product, and the branding is much better now. So that's huge. That's not the only thing though. You just rebrands just um, don't just like cause sales to spike and for you to go to $1 billion. I think another big thing is in part of this rebrand was this team they partnered with Kavu Consumer Partners. This is, I think, is either like a venture capital or maybe a hedge fund um, around D2C brands. I think they were a big part of the Vital Proteins acquisition. Um, there's some other ones, and one of their founders was on that Shark Tank episode and did a deal with them. And it's interesting because I've heard a lot of Shark Tank deals don't go well. Um, I think Mark Cuban was famous for saying he might have lost money, or at the very least broken even. And then Kevin Harrington, one of the original Sharks, he eventually left because he was like, I just wasn't getting good deals there. But I think this one is a clear success. But yeah, I think they brought in the right team. found the right partner. They could get the rebrand done. They really knew how to drive consumer sales. And I think a big part of their sales is their Amazon business. They I think they beat Olipop on Amazon. Like if you just go to Amazon, I think obviously they're getting a lot of branded traffic, um, like like people just searching for Poppi. But I think they rank #1 for prebiotic soda. As you can see, they're ranked right there. Um, there's people that are sponsored that are up, and some of these Olipop single cans are up. But then you go here and it's like 20,000 reviews on this one. There's another one with like 13,000 reviews. Yeah, this one. And I think both of these listings, based off my estimation, are each of them are driving almost over 50,000 sales a month. So that's $1 million in revenue on each of these listings. So that's a big part of their sales. And the valuation, I think the retail footprint, the retail distribution is huge. I mean, you walk into any Whole Foods, Target, Costco, 7-Eleven, Publix, you're going to find Poppi. So they have and that's a very big part of their sales. Again, if I had to guess, this Amazon and retail distribution would probably be over 80% of their sales if I had to take a guess. And it's very valuable because getting that shelf space is hard. Also, once you get it, it's almost like a B2B business in a way. It is a B2B business. You're selling to these retail stores every month, so it's a recurring revenue. It's high volume. The payment cycle is a little weird with this stuff. Like all these brands probably have net 90 terms, where so the cash flow can be a little weird, but yeah, I think this is probably the main reason why they were valued at that high of a price. And then there's the collabs. I think they do a really good job with this. I think they can do, especially on TikTok, Instagram, with Gen Z. I think this is driving a lot of their traffic. Like if you go and you look at their traffic, like I said, only 200 or 300,000 visitors. But 38, 48, what is that? Over almost 70, 80% of their traffic is what you might call a direct or organic. And so my guess is they're pouring all of their paid acquisition, or not all, but a lot of their paid acquisition budget into this organic influencer strategy. Similar to Olipop, I've heard Olipop shifted. They shifted most of their acquisition spend away from like cold Facebook ads or top of funnel Facebook ads to just influencers, and affiliates and stuff like that. So that's a little bit about their traffic, in their partnership program. And again, they should be, I'm like when you announce that Alex Earl is a partner, now an investor, I don't understand why that's not an email. So I do think they have an opportunity. They're doing so many of these collabs. It's driving a lot of traffic for them. I think they could really ramp it up with email, or just UGC videos in general, or recipe videos. Like you could do a lot of these influencers will make recipes with Poppi. Like Alex Earl was literally talking about how she was using it as a chaser, to go to drink alcohol with. So there's a lot of stuff you could do here. I think with the collabs, layering in with your email marketing strategy. But that's the Poppi breakdown. Thanks again for watching, guys. If you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I have linked my profile right here. So you can just DM me if you have a question about it. I'm normally monitoring this every day, so I should get back to you right away. Or you can email me anytime at will@flowcandy.com. Thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for the next breakdown.